as you imply there, Krishnan, some real sabre-rattling from Brussels today, and it's quite clear which country they have in their sights for a potential export ban. But it's also clear that this is something that leaves some EU national leaders extremely uneasy and very queasy indeed. Also, I think, emerging that the language of the statement that's come out from the joint statement from the government here and the EU suggests there is scope for a deal which diffuses this situation by improving supply issues for the EU without Britain actually having to export finished product vaccines to the EU. Over in the EU, the third wave is creating all sorts of tensions, and Boris Johnson, when he spoke to MPs earlier, said that he might have to toughen controls over people coming in from France as a result of that. He also talked about the possibility of having compulsory vaccinations for people who work in care homes, and that idea that the government had been pushing away not so long ago about certification or passports. A way of proving that you've had a vaccine or a very recent test might get you into a certain venue like a pub. He seemed to be sniffing around that idea. He's already travelled, like so many leaders, a long distance away from past beliefs, but he looks like he's got longer still on his journey away from the columns he used to write in newspapers. The third wave of COVID across Europe has brought curfew back to France. Poland today recorded its highest ever level of infections. Germany had already put up checks on the Polish border requiring COVID tests from people coming through. With vaccination levels at 1/4 of the rate in the UK, the European Union's been under pressure to explain and improve things. Today, the European Commission proposed new powers to control exports of vaccines to reassure its citizens that it won't just stand by and let them slip out to countries like the UK.
If the country of destination, which has a large production capacity, restricts its own exports of vaccines or substances, either by law or by other means, it may be appropriate to consider whether exports to this country are justified.
Some European leaders worry about the impact of blocking supplies to countries like the UK. The Prime Minister told MPs questioning this afternoon that could drive business away from the EU.
I would just gently point out to anybody considering a blockade or an interruption of supply chains that companies may look at such actions and draw conclusions about whether or not it is sensible to make future investments in countries where arbitrary blockades are imposed.
The Commission probably feels they need to carry a bigger stick, so to speak, because they don't want to be in a position where they feel, rightly or wrongly, that AstraZeneca somehow, even if the company has, if you like, promised too much, chooses to honor other contracts rather than the ones they have with the EU.
Germany's own infection levels prompted the government to announce yesterday morning a mini lockdown over Easter. No sooner had the papers and businesses this morning groaned about the Easter surprise, and Chancellor Merkel announced a humiliating U-turn.
Dennoch war die Idee der sogenannten Osterruhe ein Fehler. Sie hatte ihre guten Gründe, war aber in der Kürze der Zeit nicht gut genug umsetzbar. Dieser Fehler ist einzig und allein mein Fehler. Denn am Ende trage ich für alles die letzte Verantwortung.
The march of COVID was also pushing Boris Johnson in new political directions. He told MPs his position on whether you need vaccine or test certificates for access to pubs and other venues was shifting.
I think that's the kind of thing that it may be up to individual publicans. It may be up to the landlord. And my impression is that there is a huge wisdom in the public's feeling about this. They want us as their government and me as the Prime Minister to take all the actions I can to protect them.
Compulsory vaccinations for care home staff could also make sense, the Prime Minister said. He warned that infection rates in France could mean tougher controls at the Channel very soon. The government hoping it can fortify against COVID variants that might overpower the vaccines, already in nearly 30 million arms over here, far fewer on the other side.
Well, let's speak now to Christoph Hansen, a Luxembourg MEP who sits on both the European Parliament's Advisory Group on Vaccines and its Committee on International Trade. Thanks for joining us. If we just have a look at what's happened, Britain struck very early deals with the manufacturers, started first, and has now vaccinated about 3 times the proportion of adults to most of the European countries. The EU was late with its deals, started vaccinating later, and then various leaders started spreading weird anti-vax skepticism about the very vaccine that you now want. Why is Britain to blame for European incompetence?
Well, in general, I would contradict you. It's not European incompetence here. It's European openness. And you can say that openness means being, let's say, not going the right direction. But for us, the openness of our economy is very important. We have international supply chains. And that's why, in principle, we believe and we want to go ahead as well with open markets, not only for the vaccines, but as well for the components needed to produce them. I have to remind you as well that the European Union delivered almost 11 million doses of vaccine to the United Kingdom. Do you know the figure how much vaccine came back the other way around? Exactly 0 doses. So
but that's just not correct.
We need reciprocity.
It's not that the EU didn't send vaccine doses to Britain. Britain did a deal with Pfizer, and those doses were sent according to a commercial contract. And Britain would not be sending AstraZeneca vaccine to Europe. These are commercial contracts that have been struck.
These are commercial contracts that the European Union struck as well. So there as well, the companies have a commitment as well to the other contractors and not just one where the main production sites are there. So that's why I believe there we have to make the balance and see correctly what is going both ways. The European Union is the champion of exporting vaccines, is the milk cow for vaccination, I might say, but as well a milk cow at some time needs to graze and to drink, and if nothing is coming in from the other side, and this is for components, so for ingredients, lipids, etc., but as well for vaccines coming back. So our mechanism that is now on the table is based on reciprocity, and I think there is nothing wrong of asking the same openness from the other countries that are producing and that are rolling out their own vaccination strategy. Of course, there is a certain egoism if you say that, you did well in your rollout, maybe that's right. But on the other hand, you should not blame the others of doing the same thing as you are doing.
But what specifically do you think Britain has done wrong in terms of, what do you think Britain has limited? I mean, even if you took away the 10 million doses that Britain has taken from Pfizer,
10.9,
Britain would
10.9.
still, okay, 10.9, Britain would still have vaccinated twice as many adults as most European countries. So in your measurement, we would still be ahead and therefore, you know, not eligible to receive European exports. You know, what do you think Britain's actually done wrong?
That's completely wrong. And up to now, that the mechanism, as you rightly should know, is already in place for several weeks now. Up to now, almost 380 doses have been exports have been granted. Only one has been refused. That was one going from Italy to Australia. So the UK. And this, up to now, hasn't suffered of anything now. And therefore, I welcome as well the joint statement that the United Kingdom and the European Union should work together and not against each other. And I think there, both parts need to come to the table, and reciprocity is the magic word that should be on both mouths.
Christoph Hansen, thank you very much indeed.